morning, it's 5:15 on Saturday morning, and here starteth the journey to play Manchester. See you there. Okay guys, it's now, I don't know what time it is, it's now 6:30. I'm sitting here waiting for Penny now on the M74, and we've got about another 3.5 hours until we get to that there, Manchester. But in the meantime, here's some traffic and some nice music. And yep, you probably can't see a bloody thing because it's pitch black, but hey ho. As we approach Mordor, death becomes us. Okay, here we are, we're now at T-Bay. Ready for some scan?
Yep.
Let's go. Well, we're at T-Bay Services and we're just about to embark, and that is the view outside. As you can see, it's rather nice. Okay, here we are, it's 5 to 10 and you can see it's a tiny little queue. Yep. All ready to rock and roll.
Yep. Roll anyway.
John, do you want your phone just in case I lose you?
Designed so that you can't take them off.
One number wristband. Ian, there's Darth Vader.
Alright.
Sorry man.
You have to pay for that signature.
Oh fuck aye.
How much?
There's one stock, that's a... I'm actually glad to see that it's no rushed.
Yeah.
It's quite spacious.
Yep, quite correct, Alan. It certainly was a lot more open than Blackpool, I felt. A lot more space, which I actually quite liked. This game here, Coffin Dodgers, it looked really nice. I wasn't actually quite sure, in fact, can you maybe see there what? I think it might be PC it's running on, I'm not too sure. It looked very like Mario Kart 8, which is no bad thing.
Well, that isn't an Xbox. That's an Xbox controller.
PC, I suppose.
Yeah, the Wii box there. Right front.
Ah, right.
Right, I'm off. Much bigger trading place, eh?
Yeah, seems to be.
Yep, as I just mentioned there, or my mate mentioned, was predominantly stalls selling stuff. You know, I would probably say the selling aspect took up, I don't know, maybe about 50% of the space. Maybe not quite as much as that, but yeah. And the unfortunate thing for me is I felt all the stalls, there's a lot of sort of stalls selling the same kind of stuff. But you know, it's I still thought it was pretty good. A few of my mates have kind of commented since coming back yesterday that they didn't enjoy it as much. They felt that the arcade section was quite small and it was kind of pushed away in a sort of the corner. You know, it was in the corner, but I still felt that there was a lot of machines. And I personally thought the layout of the thing was actually pretty good. These are obviously sort of indie games. There were some Oculus Rift stuff, but I couldn't be arsed queuing up for it. But that was proving to be popular. Now this is the Lamasoft stall. You'll see Mr. Minter possibly. Did I catch him in camera? Maybe I didn't actually. I do actually go back and talk to him later on. I think that was some kind of online gaming type thing, Minecraft I think it was. Now, I'm not quite sure, there was always a big crowd of people gathering up there on the right hand side. I wasn't quite sure what we were waiting to get a show on. It was obviously some game, but I didn't really hang about too much to sort of see. Now this thing is really interesting. I was talking to Jeff Minter about this. This is actually called, you can see there, the Atari Video Music. It is actually the very, very first music visualizer. Now this came out before the Atari 2600 came out. He bought it on eBay just recently, and yeah, I mean, so that actually came out before Atari 2600. It's a really collectible thing. You can see there TXK, that's the Oculus Rift one. That's a gorgeous game. Now I do know that Jeff did confirm that they're hoping that Atari are going to be able to come to some sort of mutual arrangement with Atari so that the TXK does actually get a release on the PS4 and the PC. It's far too good a game to not get a release, and it would be an absolute sin if it didn't. Got to say, when I go to these shows, I never ever have a shot of any of the sort of consoles, because the thing is I've got them all in my games room, so I don't really see any point in travelling 300 miles to play a game on a machine that I can play in the house. So I tend just to kind of gloss over it. Now these are all Xbox 360s, that Halo I think it is, online Halo. Seem to prove very popular. I don't know what that is, that Project Gotham or something, I'm not too sure. But you can see there's a lot of sort of empty spaces. It certainly didn't feel too busy. I mean, it did get busy, and you know, when you got to the arcade section, it was quite difficult getting onto stuff. You know, a few times I went to go into something and somebody would just jump in front of you, but you know what, that's what it is. But you can see there, Qbert, you just notice the Qbert screen there. There were actually going to be, Paul Drury is going to be interviewing the maker of Qbert today, which is the Sunday. Obviously, sadly I'm not there to see that, but that'll be quite an interesting talk. Sky Saga, that's the, what they call the Oliver twins. It's their new baby. I think it's a Kickstarter thing actually. It does look very similar to Minecraft. There's Mr. Oliver just on the right hand side of the screen there. You can maybe caught him. Not quite sure what one it is. Is it Andrew or can't remember the other guy's name. Oh, there's a bad finger shot. I do feel a bit self-conscious walking about with a camera. You know, you do get a lot of people kind of looking at you a bit strangely. There's the Oculus Rift, that's proved very popular. It looks like some kind of Half-Life game, not quite sure what it was. That looked interesting. I don't know what it is. Well, Vulverblade. It's like huge, big, massive graphics, kind of in the style of Golden Axe. It did actually look really nice. Huge, big graphics, gorgeous looking. But there's quite a few indie games on show, which is good. It's always good to see. Yep, here's me with the great Mr. Minter. He never changes, quite literally. Jeff's a good lad, so had a wee chat with him. And this is Amy. Amy is a cosplayer. I've known Amy through the Yak Yak forums for a long time. She is Wednesday out of the Addams Family. Quite spooky contact lenses in there. There's a Funstock stall. They were selling something rather interesting. In fact, that's not the Funstock stall, that's further up. I'll tell you about that later on when we see it. That was just various consoles. Up there in front of you is the arcade scene. That is the arcade section. All the various cabs. Quite a few. I mean, I don't know how many there were. I would maybe say about 100. Now there were a lot of pin tables. Now I haven't really got any interest in pinball at all, but there was a lot of really old-fashioned looking ones which I do film. So hopefully we'll see that in a wee second. It's kind of difficult trying to film the arcade cabs when there's people playing them. In this day and age with privacy and God knows what else, you've got to be very careful when you're pointing the camera at somebody. Disappointingly, I've never seen a track and field machine at any of these events. And that is one I would definitely play. Quartet, that was a pretty rubbish game by Atari, I think it was. It was like the unofficial follow-up to Gauntlet. And that was Hyper Sports. I did try to get a shot of that, but again it was always very, very busy. Ghosts and Goblins, that was the one time I did have to try and have a shot of that. Actually the game crashed, so Nemesis. Paperboy Lethal Enforcers, Daytona, USA. And two people in costume playing Mortal Kombat. Star Wars arcade. Super Sprint, was that Operation Wolf? I think it was. Yeah, you were very, very lucky to actually get a cab that wasn't actually getting played. But to be fair, there weren't like queues of people. You can see there, that's exactly really what it was all day. This is the... I'm not quite sure that was that Doom or something? Doom 3 I think that was, is it? Is that Deathmatch Doom? Got really no interest in these sort of games. but they seem to be really popular again. A guy with a square head. I never really quite see the appeal of that, but you know what, each to their own. Yeah, yes, maybe this glance here, Dark Souls 3 I think it was. I had that running on quite a few PS4s. Yep, that suits you, mate. These again were kind of indie games. I should have seen that. I might actually have that game actually on the PS4. Can't remember what it's called. Oh, so kicking off. They were all queuing for, what was it? PS4. Yeah, that was that a game? Was that to try and get a shot of Dark Souls? I think it was. People were certainly keen to play it. There's a Judge Dredd. That's again the Play Saga thing. I did have a look at it, and it does look it looks kind of like a more up-to-date version of Minecraft with slightly less rubbish graphics. But it certainly does bore a lot from Minecraft, though I'm sure the Oliver twins would probably tell us otherwise. I did see them, they were standing about, and I thought I could go up and talk to them, but you know what, I've never really had an affinity with Dizzy. I really don't know all that much about them, so I thought I've not got that much to say to them, so I reluctantly thought I'll not bother. But they do seem very, very approachable guys. You know, there were people getting their pictures taken with them all day, and they were going up and talking to people, so they do seem like two real down-to-earth blokes. It looked like Counter-Strike, I think it was. And yeah, I mean, as like most of these things, a lot of the stuff was overpriced or more expensive than eBay. Yeah, that was actually the games section, actual proper board games, and fun enough, you actually get people sitting down and playing them. I mean, I was watching two guys about my age playing Guess Who. You know, you don't go all that way to Manchester to play bloody board games, but you know what, again, if that's what floats your boat. I mean, the only one game that I thought, oh, I'll have a look and see if I can see it for a decent price was Gradius 5, and they wanted 30 quid for it, so I thought, nah, you're alright, mate. These look quite interesting. I think again they're running on the PS4. But it certainly wasn't a claustrophobic environment, which was great. You know, I hate being in places where it's just far too busy, people pushing and shoving. Yeah, when you went into the kind of the sort of the selling area, it was obviously busier, but you can see there it's quite kind of spread out. That game there looked quite interesting. Very, very minimal graphics. Yep, there's Funstock. They had an interesting thing. It was like a kind of what are they called? Segway. It's like a wee two-wheeled thing you could stand on, but they didn't have any prices. Now that there is that going far too quickly. There's Coffin Dodgers again. But your prices were pretty high for stuff. But you know, what people say is it's more expensive than eBay, but you can see exactly what you're getting. You can check the box, you can check the instructions, and you're not going to pay for postage as well. So yeah, there's Robotron on the right hand side, Tutankhamun. Now I did have a shot of that Robotron cab, and I've got to say I wasn't very impressed with it. The joysticks were far too tight. Apparently there was actually another 2 Robotron cabinets which I didn't see, but I was talking to a guy, which you'll see later on, and he was saying that the one that he was playing, which is the one I just showed you, was actually the best of a bad bunch. I managed to get the 4th highest score, but as you'll see later on, my score of about 130,000 was sadly eclipsed very, very easily. You can probably tell I did a lot of just walking about. Now that's what I tend to do when I get to these things. I actually play very, very little games. To me it's all about just seeing what's there, and you know, meeting people. I did meet quite a lot of people, which was excellent.
Who you bump into when you come down? It's my good friend Adam. How you doing, Chief? You alright?
Doing good.
Aye.
Doing good. Thank you.
Fantastic to finally meet this guy, a legend.
Cheers, Alan. Thank you.
So what have you been up to then? Are you playing many games?
Not many games, but over there, loads of Spectrum games and C64 games, so I managed to buy it. So got a stack loads.
What did you buy yourself then?
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. Well, Bombjack, Paperboy, Ghosts and Goblins, Agent X, just a mixture of everything. Games I used to play that I never got when I sold it, things like that.
So what are your kind of highlights of the show then?
Meeting other YouTubers, coming down with Steve, and enjoying just conversation and meeting people.
I think that's it. I can even decide if there's one moment to come down. I like the games, but to me the biggest part is just meeting my friends. You know what I mean? It's good to catch up. I think ideally you have 2 days. You have one day to talk to people, and you have a second day actually play the games. Sort of thing, you know.
We've got all day tomorrow. Everyone's gone home tonight, so we're just going to sit around and play all the arcades. It'd be good, you know. But
so what? I mean, how do you think this compares to like Blackpool?
I've never been to Blackpool.
Oh, you're not going to Blackpool?
Never been.
Aye.
But as far as I'm aware of, Blackpool's smaller. This is more.
Aye, this
bigger.
Is a lot bigger. It's not better than Blackpool. I think Blackpool's quite intimate because it's smaller. But this has been good. I mean, what I like about this is the fact that it's so kind of open.
Yeah,
you don't feel kind of, it's not claustrophobic at all. You know,
you don't feel bumped into everyone.
Aye, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, as I said, I haven't been to Blackpool, but this place, as I said, it's open. And the only 2 things is that Amy Bay was supposed to be, well, they haven't turned up, Amy Bay, and Amiga kit haven't turned up. So that's 2 disappointing things, because it's nice to actually see Amigas. There are a few like here, but you know, they had sensible soccer tournaments and things like that. That's the only disappointment I've got at the moment. So far it's been alright. I mean, day 2 still to go. So
Looking forward to that.
I'll be heading off soon anyway, so hey, listen, Adam, been fantastic talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've got to say, meeting people is one of my favourite things. It really is. I mean, the YouTubers that I met yesterday, it was quite funny. I was, what was I doing? I was standing at the arcade section and I happened to turn round, and it was one of these moments where you see somebody and you think, is it not? And then I could tell that this person was doing the same to me. We were kind of eyeing each other up thinking, is that who we think it is? And then we're like, yep, it is indeed. And it was Woodland 37, Carl. I've got to say, Carl, you're not a fat bastard in real life. You must put padding on or something when you're making the video. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to speak to him for very long. But other guys that I met, obviously I met Adam old school. He's an absolute top guy. He was there with his mate Steve. It was nice to see Steve as well. Mark, Big Mark, Lactobacillus prime. He's about 7'6", and I've actually still got a sore neck. I was trying to talk to him yesterday. I met him and his lovely wife Elise. I also bumped into Gemma the Gebs. I was talking to Gemma and her auntie. They're really nice. Who else? Dave Infected Flinch. Chatting to Dave for quite a while. There was quite a few other Return Limb guys. Now I'm absolutely shit with names, so I do apologise. I'm crap with names. I'm not bad with faces, but I'm awful with names, so I do apologise for not mentioning anyone else. But yeah, absolutely excellent. I also met quite a few of my mates who are on the Way of the Rodent forum. Mr. Tony Temple, Missile Command World Champion. I was talking to Tony. He was there with his son yesterday. Talking to Tony, met a few other guys. Chris, various other people. I didn't see Chris Ashanked. I know Chris was supposed to be there, but I did not see him. And the funny thing was, the people that I did see, I tended to see them 3 or 4 times. So yeah, I don't know where Chris was, but apologies for not bumping into you, Chris. I hope you had a good day anyway. Yep, these are all the pin tables. I'm not a pin fan, I must admit, but some of these machines are beautiful looking. I can certainly see the appeal. And these were always very popular. There was always people playing them. I did wander up a few times to try and get a shot of something, but there was always people on them, so I didn't bother.
Are you going to tell us that the game you designed, what was it actually called? Or would you like to talk us through the gameplay, Paul?
No. I bear in mind I was 12.
Okay.
Go and look it up, Paul.
If you want to know, maybe we can ask Paul later, okay? So clearly you're a Spectrum boy, okay? Can we now go on to picture number 2? Paul, who is this? And did you dream about stroking her cat?
I don't believe so. That is Teaser from Your Sinclair, if I remember. Do you know, I only would have got that because I happened to look at Your Sinclair website last night. I wouldn't have got it otherwise.
So is that how you normally spend Friday night, looking at Your Sinclair websites?
Well, actually, it might have been this one. I didn't sleep terribly well last night, so I'm going to blame that if my answers are a bit sluggish. First thing I'm going to check. I've warned Paul that I'm going to do this. First thing I saw this morning when I woke up was Facebook. Was a friend of mine had linked to a photograph, or not photograph, a video of a tortoise trying to have sex with a roll boot. That was the first thing I saw, and then from that led me to looking at the Your Sinclair website.
Thank you for that link. I just want to ask you a little bit more about the Spectrum. I just wondered, were you involved in the playground wars of the 1980s? Did you have spats with the Commodore 64 owners at all?
No, I had mates who had the Commodore 64, and I was always kind of slightly envious of it because it looked, believe it or not, it looked better than the Spectrum, even though I kind of professed to being a Spectrum boy. It was more the BBC boys that I was not like, because they were posh, they were the posh boys, so the ones whose parents could afford a £300 computer in 1984, for pity's sake.
Yes, no one like BBC owners. Okay, so you'd also got a background playing games and are interested in games. But could we move on to slide number 3? What has this organisation got to do with your future career at digitising?
Well, the first job I ever had after leaving school was for Mamemeister Racing, and I designed the graphics for their in-house bedding stores. And from there, I learnt to do teletext graphics, believe it or not.
I'm just intrigued about this art form of making images out of incredibly kind of limited palette. Is this just from school days of scribbling on the back of of your textbook in graph paper? I mean, how did you get into this?
Well, I got the job at Labrooks. My cousin worked there, and they were looking for a new graphics guy. I was 15 at the time when I got the job, and I had the job part time, and then I dropped out of college and went there full time. But it was, I don't know, how did I get the job? I had a portfolio of I remember in there was a pencil drawing of an AT-AT and stuff, so it wasn't, I didn't demonstrate a skill at a young age for pixel art. I just liked drawing.
And I hear you also managed to get a job at, I can't get this right, at Wembley Stadium, is that correct?
Yeah, so it was after I left, Labrooks, I'm getting it wrong, God. I went to Wembley Stadium where I worked on the scoreboard doing kind of like goal animations and actually scoring matches. And that was one of the best jobs I've ever had, because there was literally no work to do other than kind of on event days. So I used to kind of entertain myself by, we had a scanner or a digitizer, believe it or not.
A digitizer?
And I remember sticking my face under it one day and animating my own face, and then going out and seeing my face on the Wembley scoreboard. That was how I entertained myself, because there was no work to do other than avoid this guy I worked with called Dennis, who I was fairly convinced was a serial killer.
How did that pan out? What was he? Well, it wasn't Dennis Nielsen, was it?
Well, Dennis used to be at work kind of before everyone else got there. There's only 3 of us that worked in the scoreboard, and he'd always been there long after everyone else had gone home, so we were convinced that he was living in the rafters of Wembley Stadium. And he had this kind of retractable spike that he kept next to his computer. We never saw him use the spike, but on the desk next to him were all these marks where he clearly, at points when he was alone in the office, gone like that with the spike. So that was Dennis. Oh, and then he got arrested. No, he went to court. He didn't turn up at work one day because he went to court. And sorry, I told you I was going to do this. I can stop about the time Dennis went to court for someone's tribunal over someone he pulled out of a canal. And when he pulled him out of the canal, the person had a heart attack. And I said, so why were you involved? And he said, oh, because I had this. He told you his voice, his nose. He said, I pulled him out of the canal, and I had a cigar case in my top pocket, and it must have banged against his heart because he had a heart attack and died. That was Dennis. Anyway, so
interestingly, that machine there, I think I actually zoom in on it, it's actually marked as a 1200, and it quite clearly wasn't a 1200 because it was far too small. I think it was actually an Amiga 600s with a badge stuck on it, unless of course it had the innards of a 1200 inside. Some really obscure looking machines. What was that? Tatung Einstein, yeah, I remember that one. I'm not sure, that was some kind of Amiga. That was a Dragon. Now, that was interesting, a Dragon, what was it? Dragon 200. Never seen that one before. There's the amazing ColecoVision, which I have. Unfortunately it wasn't actually running. It looks like an Amstrad of some sort. Xbox. Some fucking 4-player GameCube thing, I think it was. It's going to be proving popular. Mean Machines in the Sega Mega Drive. And that was Time Splitters 1, if I'm not mistaken. Another unfortunate snap of somebody's arse. I'm not sure what that was in the GameCube. not the GameCube, the N64. But you can see there's a lot of different machines. And again, because I was only there the one day, I really didn't have time. That guy there with the pink headphones, he was beside me in the queue, he kept talking away to me. There's lots of really nice looking machines, but I just simply didn't have the time to actually look. Now I like that game. I'm guessing that is Mario Soccer or something. I'm going to actually have to have a look for that. It looked actually quite cool. I was trying not to look too obvious filming, so I wasn't holding the camera at kind of eye level, hence the reason I tend to be filming down the way quite a lot of the time. That was what was that? That was a PC Engine. PC Engine, yeah. I've never seen that one before. That's the is it Slaughterhouse? I think it was. Amiga 1200 running flashback. Atari ST. Can't remember what game they were playing. Was that Super Sprint? I think it was. Mega Man on the NES. And there's the big beast. I've got one of these, Atari 800. Sadly, not plugged into anything. So that's RX81 with a 16K RAM pack. It wasn't really doing very much either. I can't even begin to imagine how long it must take somebody to plug all these machines in. Can you just imagine if there was a power cut or something like that? An absolute catastrophe. So you can see there it is huge and it's not overly jam-packed, which is good. There's a lot of people who say didn't like it, they didn't like the event, but I actually thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. It was my mate Ian playing Tutankhamun for a few seconds. It's not a game I've ever played ever. He seemed to like it. This is me mid-game Galaxian, obviously. I'm up to 5,990 points. Bollocks. Now what was interesting, a couple of hours later I returned to have another go at this, and there was a guy playing it and he was on 240 odd thousand points, which at Galaxian is just a phenomenal score. I watched him to the end. I said he finished at about 250,000. And I asked him what his highest score was, and he said it was about 1.5 million points. And watching him playing, I could quite imagine that. You know, to get even, I mean, a good score at Galaxian is even about 20 odd thousand. It's such a fiendishly hard game. It's brilliant to see people who are so good at games, just to see how it should be done. They make it look incredibly simple, but it's far from it. You've also got to have a really keen eye and ninja reflexes as well. Yep. Unlike me. One thing about playing these games at an event like this is, you can probably tell from the video, the sound, the actual sound effects for these cabs isn't very loud. there's obviously so much stuff trying to compete for the same, the same sort of space. So unfortunately, all these games are turned down quite low, and that's, the whole point of these games is having nice loud sound. It really adds to the experience of the game. I mean, you could hear it, but it wasn't loud. Certainly, a game like this needs to be turned up to 11. I think the guy was on level. Wait a minute, I'm getting muddled up. There's another video coming up in a second. Yeah, I'm thinking of a different game, which you'll see in a second. There we go, 11,440. This guy here, he's apparently quite well known in the sort of high scoring circuit. My mate Tony was telling me that he goes to all these events and he'll sometimes play the games for hours at once. You can see here he's just about the 960,000. He's just short of the million points at this point. He's on wave 39, I think it was. Now you'll be able to tell in a second he actually wears gloves, so he's obviously very, very hardcore Robotron gamer. I mean, you see that's just absolutely mental. I would last a split second. It's incredible. You see that he's just died, but it's incredible when you see these guys, the way they're able to navigate through the screen and simply not die. But you'll notice at the top he's got, in fact, yeah, he's just picked up an extra life there. He's down to his fifth last life, and you can lose lives very quickly in Robotron. But saying that, you can also pick them up quite easily. I think it's every sort of 20,000 points or something, you can pick up another life. But I was just watching in amazement just how good these guys are. I had a game earlier on, I think it was about 130,000 points. Yeah, he's now at what? Over 1 million points here. I did talk to him once he'd finished his game, and he told me that his high score was 10 million. Yeah, it is wave 42. It's just mind blowing watching guys like him. They make it look so easy, but it's anything but. And you can probably tell with the sort of noise in the background, there was absolutely zero volume on this game. It's disappointing, but I suppose if you've got all these machines turned up, it's they're going to just thing each other out. Yep, there are two giant Game Boys playing Tetris. I think the time at this point was about 5:30, and we were just getting ready to head away. We were going to go and get something to eat at the Trafford Centre, which is just across the road from this conference centre thing. It was starting to get a bit quieter, as you can probably tell. Possibly next year, maybe not Manchester, I would actually go for the 2 days, so I can actually spend a day playing games and a day sort of meeting people and just wandering about. Because as is always the case with these things, the time seems to fly in way too quickly. So that is it, guys. That is Play Manchester 2015.
Okay then, it's 2 minutes to 8 and we have just been into the Trafford Centre for a pizza Blackpool?
Oh, much bigger. I mean, probably a good 4 times as big as, if not more. A lot more going on. Spacious without being overcrowded. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed the day.
I thought that as well. It was a big hall. I mean, I was talking to somebody who mentioned that they preferred Manchester last year because it was like 3 times the size of the one this year. But I thought that this year's one was perfect. What I liked about it is the fact that everything was in one hall, so you weren't having to walk out and sort of physically leave one bit behind, going into, whereas that one you could just kind of wander about and cover the whole thing without any real effort.
In a similar vein, like the gadget show, that just shows the segmentation of that they corralled you into the different parts of the venue. So this was very much open.
And I didn't think it wasn't too crowded either. I mean, there was a lot of people there, but it didn't feel like you were crowded at all.
Yeah, a good few thousand people, if not more.
Yeah. So did you play many games at all?
Oh, I played all the usual traditional ones, Pac-Man and Robotron and Missile Command. It was trying to get on initially for the most part of the day.
Aye, I would probably agree. That was the only thing that I didn't like about it. The only thing about that was it was busy enough to the point that any time I went to go have a shot at something, somebody would be playing it. There was very few machines. But saying that, if you were patient and you stood about, then you would get on to it. But yeah.
No, but there was a lot to see and do. There were cosplay competitions, much of the usual fare you've seen before, but never felt claustrophobic about the place. You could go and find your chill out place away from the...
Did you buy anything at all?
Oh yes, I bought some canvas posters of sort of arcade characters, Sonic the Hedgehog and my favourite Angry Birds. They were really good. So more tagged to the walls.
Did you get yourself a joystick as well for your?
Yeah, I got my actually. Probably looking as I went round and round for a good part of the day. It was the only Sinclair joystick available, so I was lucky enough to get that, and for a £5 or £2, which wasn't too bad.
Yeah. Excellent. But I thought it was a very well-run show. We did, Ian and I, I've recorded a wee bit of video, which you've probably seen, because you're obviously watching the video now, of Mr. Biffer of Digitizer fame. We watched that. Obviously that's a talk, which was quite interesting. And I think you also went to some presentation about the PlayStation.
Yeah, it was basically, it was almost like a prerequisite to a Kickstarter program for a hardback. I think they're going to do a paperback version of basically the history of the PlayStation. All in all, the presentation was okay, but you did see a number of people arrive and leave within the presentation, maybe not that enthusiastic about it, whether they thought that it lacked something, or whether they maybe thought it was going to be something different than it was. But generally, video archive material, which apparently, according to the presenter, is not and will not be on YouTube, won't be on the internet, because this is this guy's personal archive of his journey through as a journalist from 1990 onwards, of the evolution, both 5 years before the PlayStation came about, until its demise as such, and how the world was trying to get there. They were talking about piracy being rife with the Amiga and other consoles, and the head of Psygnosis at the time, I can't remember the chap's name, was saying this was a major problem, and he was looking even then back in I think it was probably the 1991 as a CD, compact disc being the future to battle piracy. Little knowing what we know now, that really nothing as far as piracy was concerned would have actually changed that.
anything, it's a well-known fact, although probably some people may disagree. It's a well-known fact that I reckon that piracy helped make the PlayStation. And without the PlayStation, we wouldn't have what we're playing now.
Yeah. So they were talking a 5-year prehistory initially of the PlayStation. They went through, I think the item that really was a 3DO, I think, that was almost dead at the time that the PlayStation was launched.
That bombed spectacularly, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. But they were aiming in the same direction. But even the guy, the head of Psygnosis, 5 years prior to that, said we need to start building now for the future. He realised that development of the CD was paramount, and it was going to take a long time in relative gaming terms to actually achieve that. So he had the foresight of saying, right, we need to get onto this now. And then Sony bought Psygnosis over, because primarily Sony.
That's right.
Sony were a hardware company, and they needed a software outlet within Europe and America. So they saw Psygnosis and maybe a few others.
I think, was it not Psygnosis? Did he not do Destruction Derby? I think on the PlayStation.
I'll take your word for it.
I think he did. He also did what's the famous one, Wipeout as well.
Yeah, Wipeout was mentioned as a key initial player, amongst a few others. And I started naturally noting down these games. Some of them I actually hadn't heard of, and I went and actually acquired one of the games that was mentioned from one of the stalls after the presentation, called Army Plan, I believe. And there was one, Wild 9, which I tried to look for, but it was one of the key platform games that had some slightly quirky differences from the usual platform games. But yeah, overall I enjoyed the history lesson for the sort of 3/4 of an hour.
So was there any did you have a shot of any of the modern games?
Again, no. If we were going to stay there for like 2 days, I might have got there, let's say overnight kip, and got there first thing and launched myself. But the queues were they weren't particularly bad, but I wanted to go and see other stuff.
Personally, I felt that one day I'd kind of seen enough, but I actually the highlight for me was I met a lot of fellow YouTubers, friends. I'm not going to name any of them, because there was quite a few that I met, which was excellent. I think probably a 2-day thing would be ideal. Spend a day socialising and then spend the day playing games. But we've obviously come a long way. We drove down this morning, driving back tonight. It's taken a long time, but I feel like we've had our money's worth. It's been a full day.
Yeah, typically at places like this, you will get cheaper if you buy online or locally. The prices
prices were quite steep.
Yeah, but in some respects, the artwork, the canvas artwork that I bought, I thought was reasonable. Some stores were more expensive than others. There was a number of duplications of items sold at different stores, but it's.
And the one game that I can't wait to get my hands on is quite appropriate for two old bastards like ourselves. It's Coffin Dodgers.
Yeah, I didn't really ask on that. When that's coming out. Looking at the actual console itself, I didn't recognise the console that it was.
I think it was running on a PC using the Xbox 360 controller. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Or was it Xbone? Maybe the Xbox one? I'm not quite sure actually.
It was a smaller console that had like a green. It didn't look like an Xbox One or anything I've seen, but I'm sure if we type in Coffin Dodgers into Google, we might set it up with something else like a funeral service or something. But no, it's well worth maybe investigating. It's a fun. It looked like a fun game, maybe aimed at children.
It looked like
from all ages, really.
To me, it looked like Super Mario Kart 8 with people in Zimmers. And
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, battering each other with zimmers off the course. Yeah, so all good fun.
Aye, a fantastic weekend. So, hey, listen, guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed watching my little montage of our day down at Manchester. It's been a great day. I said thanks to, I said I wasn't going to name names. Adam, Mark, amongst the other guys. It was great to catch up. So, as usual, guys, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as usual, thank you very much for watching.